Good evening once again, everyone. Welcome to Joe Sterling Gymnasium on behalf of Apopka High School to game 23 out of 24 in the 11th Annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. It's the event that puts the reputation of the Orlando Metro Conference on the line against some of the best talent in the greater Central Florida area. And representing that talent in this penultimate contest, wearing the white jerseys, home on the scoreboard from Leesburg High School, they are the Yellowjackets. And wearing the gold jerseys, visitors on the scoreboard, representing the Orlando Metro Conference from Oak Ridge High School, they are the Pioneers. Let's meet the teams, and we will begin, even though they're home on the scoreboard, they're the Florida team, so we'll introduce them first. We will meet the Leesburg Yellowjackets. And we'll start at guard with 6'5", junior number 2, Cameron James. At guard, 5'9", junior number 4, Brian Jefferson. At guard, 6'3", senior number 5, Andre Carter. At forward, 6'4", sophomore number 11, Kanye Gaines. And finally for the Jackets at guard, 6'3", sophomore number 12, Anthony Kaiser. And the head coach of the Yellowjackets in his 10th year with Leesburg, Mr. Sean Campbell. And now let's meet the Oak Ridge Pioneers. Starting at point guard, 5'10", freshman number 2, Jalen Reese. At forward, 6'5", sophomore number 3, Tyler Johnson. At forward, 6'6", senior number 4, Lewis Jones. At guard, 6'3", sophomore number 5, Elijah Elliott. And finally for the Pioneers, at guard, 6'5", senior number 30, Fabio Basili. The officials for tonight's game are from the Central Florida Officials Association here in Orlando. We thank them for their dedicated service to our high school athletic programs and join them along with our participating schools, reminding everyone to make great sportsmanship a part of this and every athletic competition. For those of you here in the arena, if you have friends and family who are back on the other side of Orlando, up in Leesburg or anywhere in the world, and they're not able to join us in person for tonight's game, just send them a message right now. Let them know we are live and simulcasting in 2 different places. We are on YouTube. Just search for the Metro versus Florida Challenge on your favorite computer, smart TV, or mobile device. You can also catch us on Varsity Sports Network. Go to varsitysportsnetwork.org, click on the Central Florida channel, and we have been live there all 3 days of the Metro versus Florida Challenge. And for those of you who are already doing just that, we want to welcome you to Joe Sterling Gymnasium. We are a couple of minutes behind. We had a little bit of laundry confusion. Oak Ridge is the other team besides Apopka that has played in 2 games over the course of the event, and apparently the laundromat was closed on Thanksgiving, so their home jerseys were not available, and they are wearing their away gold jerseys. So while we traditionally would have the Metro team wearing the white jerseys and home on the scoreboard, we have switched things around. Leesburg is wearing white and will be home on the scoreboard. Oak Ridge is wearing gold, so we had to switch everything around. We had to switch the benches, we had to switch the scorebooks, we had to switch the stats, we had to switch the broadcast graphics. Everything should be squared away now.
And as we get underway, again, Leesburg, a 3-time state champion. They won their first under Marcel Thomas, who's now the coach at Ocoee in 2011. As Mark mentioned, Sean Campbell is the current coach in his 10th season. The last 2 championships under Campbell in 2017 and 18. And look for Leesburg. They are ultra transition. They do not stop. And we're seeing this right away. You're rotating quickly to the right corner. And the foul right off the bat, actually a travel. Brian Jefferson committing that travel. So Oak Ridge with the opportunity to go into the lead. Leesburg with the opportunity to go into the lead. And this is Cameron James, the Florida Hoops 2023 class of 2023, number 27. Stop, pop, and drop for James. Okay. So a 2-0 lead for Leesburg. Once again, a reminder, Leesburg is in the white jerseys, the home jerseys, Oak Ridge in the yellow jerseys, the colored jerseys. With 1 minute into this game, Leesburg going back to work. Oak Ridge playing their second game in this event. They won their first event over Santa Fe. It was a running clock victory, and Oak Ridge runs right into a wall, and not sure exactly what the thought process was there by Fabio Basili.
Number 30, Fabio Basili, his first personal foul. The team's first.
And Basili just was all over the rebounder, the Leesburg rebounder, as James brings the ball up to 6'5" junior guard. 6.5 minutes remaining in the first quarter. And stepping in front of the ball like a defensive back is Johnson. He receives the pass and goes withdrawal.
Tyler Johnson.
So we are tied at 2-2. Coming back the other way, Oak Ridge. And we got contact and a foul on that baseline on the right side.
Elijah Elliott fouled on the attempt. He'll go to the line and shoot two. The foul is called against number 12, Anthony Kaiser. His first personal foul. The team's first.
So Oak Ridge.
And correction, that was on the floor. So it will be Pioneers ball at the opposing baseline.
Oak Ridge, a phenomenal record last year, 22-3. And the regional champion, that means they made it to the state Final Four.
Traveling. Jackets ball.
And Oak Ridge comes into this game ranked among the top 5. As Leesburg will bring the ball up. Looking to break that 2-2 tie. We're still early in the 23rd of 24 games. The floater.
Jefferson to Kaiser for two.
So Leesburg breaks the 2-2 tie. Oak Ridge back on the attack. They're equally transitioned in terms of looking for it, wanting to get out, no dice, and the rebound pulled down by Carter, and we come back the other way. Leesburg with the 4-2 lead. The drive, the stop, pop, no drop.
James rims out.
And we come down on the right wing. Oak Ridge.
To the paint. Layup by Fabio Basili.
So Basili drops his first 2 points of the game, and we're tied at 4-4. 3.5 minutes into this 23rd of 24 games, and score the deuce.
Kanye Gaines from Cameron James.
Leesburg on defense, and here we go with the transition. Nobody taking the shooter, Gaines. And
Johnson gets the rebound going the other way in transition. There it is. Tyler Johnson from Fabio Basili on the dunk.
And we are tied at 6-6 halfway through this first quarter off the front iron. And pulling down the rebound and leading the charge is Basili. Contact and pushed off, but no foul.
Basili to Johnson again.
And that'll put the lead at 8-6. The first lead for Oak Ridge. Again, Oak Ridge is the guest on the scoreboard.
30-second timeout requested by the Yellowjackets.
As well as the uniforms. Oak Ridge wearing those colored visitor uniforms.
The 11th Annual Metro versus Florida Challenge is presented by Hoop Culture. Basketball culture is changing. Bring the same attitude to your team wear. Let us outfit your team with primo performance at every level. Coaches can go to hoopculture.com and click on the Team HC link for more information today.
We return to live action from Joe A. Sterling Gymnasium, home of the Apopka Blue Darters, but for the last 4 days, the home of the 2021 Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. This is one second to last game. Leesburg in the white jerseys, and they are going to attack.
Cameron James on the jacket dunk.
So James answers the slam from Oak Ridge. James, the Florida Hoops class of 2023, number 27. He's a junior, and we've seen a couple of explosive dunks, both on each side. Now we go back to more traditional play. Basili unable to drop the deuce, and the rebound pulled down by James, showing off his rebounding prowess as well as his scoring prowess on a couple of consecutive possessions. All kinds of defensive work, and James driving through the middle, tangled up, and draws the foul.
Foul called against Pioneers number 2, Jalen Reese. That's his first personal foul, and the team's second at the line shooting will be number 2, Cameron James.
So Leesburg ranked number 4 in Class 5A as well. Oak Ridge, a state semifinalist from last season.
Checking into the game for the Pioneers, number 3, Tyler Johnson.
Oak Ridge returns 5 starters from that state semifinal list. And the Yellowjackets, who were also a state semifinal, they lose 4 seniors from their starting lineup last year. So a lot of transition, a lot of questions as we get underway in this game between 2 state traditional powerhouses. The spin, rims in and out, and doing Windex work is Kaiser. We come down the other way, Leesburg. Under 3 minutes in the first quarter. Air ball off the hands of James this time.
And they're going to rule that it's off of Oak Ridge. So possession remains with the Jackets. Checking into the game for Leesburg, number 11, Kanye Gaines.
So this is the Metro versus Florida Challenge. As the withdrawal not made, but doing Windex work in the tip.
Number
Carter.
5, Andre Carter with the putback.
10 events, 10 Metro versus Florida challenges have been held, and it's been the Metro Conference was a 6-4 lead. They are looking to go 2 in a row. Actually, they will go 2 in a row. Drain the rain from Jefferson.
Lewis Jones from Jalen Reese for 3. Out of bounds, Pioneers ball. Checking into the game for Oak Ridge, number 30, Fabio Basili.
Oak Ridge with the 1-point lead, 11-10. And if you joined us late, Oak Ridge is actually the visitors on the scoreboard, and they're wearing the visitor uniforms, which is normally worn by the Florida contingency. Down to the left corner, clanks off the rim, battle in front of the rim, and picked up by James. James, stop, go, slash, dash, tries to scoop it in off the board, and still no dice, as Hill unable to drop the deuce. Go back the long way. Attempted interception by Jefferson, and now the turnover does occur. Leesburg, and losing control as Gaines, and the ball was just swiped away midair by Johnson as we come back the other way. So 4 consecutive turnovers.
And Charles Hill took it away that time.
So we're seeing two teams that love the transition. They're athletic and endurance-wise. They're built for transition, but sometimes a little transition goes too far. Now back the other way, the foul with 1:02 remaining in the first quarter.
Foul called against number 5, Andre Carter. That's his first personal foul. The team's second.
So as you just heard Mark call out, the second team foul, only one committed by Oak Ridge.
Anthony Kaiser in for Leesburg.
So fouls, despite the transition and the way these two teams like to get after opponents on defense to create that transition, they do not make a lot of contact. Doing the withdrawal and the slam jam for
Lewis Jones.
And that puts Oak Ridge ahead by 3, 13-10, 40 seconds remaining. Off the rim, and we'll come back the other way. Oak Ridge, a state semifinals from last year, looking to repeat. And 25 seconds as the board is cleared by Gaines. 20 seconds remaining. The over-the-shoulder pass, the spin, and before the shot of foul, actually a
no
travel.
Basket, traveling Pioneers ball.
So there was some contact, but the ref declares that the travel occurred before the contact.
Cameron James in for the Jackets.
Same result as far as Oak Ridge is concerned, and that's a turnover. They'll get the opportunity to take the last shot of the first quarter, and it's going to be
Elijah Elliott picks up 2 for the Pioneers.
Elliott going with the floating layup, and no dice. Leesburg not really having an opportunity set up. So after the first 8 minutes,
that takes us to the end of the first period. It's a 5-point ball game for the Pioneers. 15-10 is your score going into the second quarter.
And Oak Ridge scoring the last 6 points to take that lead, finding their transition legs and converting turnovers into points.
The Winter Park Driving Academy is a proud sponsor of the Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. Visit WPDriving.com to schedule a lesson with your student driver today. St. Germain Chiropractic specializes in natural, non-invasive health care with physicians trained to use a full range of diagnostic tools with a wide array of effective techniques to give our patients the relief they seek. Years of experience, they offer more than just chiropractic services. They also have nutritional and lifestyle counseling, physical rehab, and help with supplements, including vitamins and natural herbal medicines for the overall well-being of their patients. The Jackets have the opening possession of the second quarter. Welcome back to Joe Sterling Gymnasium. This is Mark Parchi, the media director for the Metro versus Florida Challenge, joined by Neil Fisher of the Apopka Chief, and ready to get you through the second quarter here in what's been a pretty good one, as promised and as advertised.
Yeah, you can still see this is the first game of the season for both teams. There's an example, but all in all, it has been competitive as expected. Both these teams love to run that transition. That's what they're known for. They've risen to state prominence and stayed there, using transition attacking, coming off of defensive, creating turnovers while on defense.
Traveling, Jackets ball. And speaking of turnovers, Leesburg has committed just 4 so far, while Oak Ridge is up to 6.
Yeah, but most of those turnovers did come in the last 3 minutes or so of that first quarter.
And, well, here's another one. Cameron James throws the ball out of bounds. Pioneers ball, checking into the game for Oak Ridge, number 20, Amari Davis.
About 200 fans in attendance, Mark. And I know, of course, that's because you got two state powerhouses. Oak Ridge has yet to win a state championship, but they have made it to the Final Four about a half dozen times. Of course, Leesburg has won 3 state championships, but still a bit surprising considering the hour that we are. 23rd of 24 games on Saturday night and college football rivalry weekend as the bank.
Fabio Basili from Amari Davis for 2.
Basili going bank. Leesburg with trying to answer.
And James trips. They're going to say that's
just
off the heel of Elijah Elliott, though, so the Jackets will at least stay with the ball.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, though, James is going to be sore in the morning.
Yeah, James just had that "I will not be stopped" look. And technically he was not, although it's going to go for not as the turnover committed by Leesburg.
Held ball, possession, Pioneers. So that's one of those where it's luck of the draw, whether it counts as a turnover or not. In this case, the possession arrow favored Oak Ridge, and so it does count as a turnover.
Oak Ridge on an 8-0 run, and this is Basili who draws the foul on the attack.
Foul is called against number 30, Fabio Basili. That's his first personal foul. The team's third.
Leesburg takes possession of the ball. And Coach Campbell has just been given a warning. He was actually standing right in front of me. That's about 2 feet outside of the coach's box. Oak Ridge on an 8-0 run. They have a 17-10 lead. And the action resumes. Leesburg with possession, a minute and a half into the second quarter. And he's being hassled, a double team by Oak Ridge, and it pays off dividends. Ball down into the left corner. Left open is Elliott, no dice. Coming out to the top of the key. Basili down low. Back to Davis, who draws the foul on the attack.
Tyler Davis fouled on the attempt to go to the line and shoot 2 for the Pioneers. Leesburg foul called against number 2, Cameron James, his first, the team's third.
And Davis unable to continue that run. 8 consecutive points scored by Oak Ridge.
Kanye Gaines into the game for Leesburg.
Oak Ridge playing in its second game of this 2021 Earl Graham Florida versus Metro Conference versus Florida Challenge. Second point is good, so a 10-0 run now by the Pioneers. The other school to play two games was, of course, Apopka, the host team, and some more bad fortune for Leesburg.
Double dribble violation.
And now you have to wonder, because that was a double dribble, that's unforced, how much of this Oak Ridge pressure defense is getting inside Leesburg's head. Remember, Leesburg does not return a lot of players from their state semifinalists. So these are raw, talented but very raw players.
Checking into the game for the Jackets, number 20, Evan James.
Leesburg inbounds the ball, looking to cut a 10-0 run by Oak Ridge. And it will not happen this time as Basili picks up the loose ball. The spin, good defense by James, who cut off that angle, but Oak Ridge gets the offensive rebound, and they'll go back to work. 5.5 before halftime. They'll go back to work quickly. Drain the rain
for Jalen Reese, who snuck in the game if you weren't looking.
And the run is now 13-0, and an opportunity to do it even more. A 2-on-1 break. And no pass from Johnson. He takes it himself and slams for the deuce.
Tyler Johnson gets the Pioneer dunk and will pause for a 30-second timeout requested by Leesburg.
A 14-0 run by Oak Ridge, capped off by the slam jam off the hands of Johnson. Defense has been the catalyst, 23-10.
This season, give the gift of a healthy smile. Visit Baptiste Orthodontics and Dentistry for Kids with 3 convenient offices in Apopka, Orlando, and Windermere, offering braces and aligners for all ages. And exclusively in Apopka, make an appointment with Dr. Alba, our board-certified pediatric dentist.
A 14-0 run by Oak Ridge against this extremely talented but young Leesburg Yellowjackets squad. Most of these players playing their first varsity game. And the lead now up to 23-10. We started this game back and forth, neither team leading by more than 3 points. But it has been all Oak Ridge since the score was 11-10. And another opportunity, Baselli stepping in front of the pass, out to the corner, squaring up, and draining the rain.
Jalen Reese from Fabio Baselli for 3.
So 2 out of the last 3 trays, and Leesburg hanging by thread now in terms of the momentum. Just what they needed. They'll come back the other way, down on the left side. And going bank.
Kanye Gaines on the 2-point jumper from James.
James did not just take a step back, so that's only 2 points. His feet were touching the white line, indicating the 3-point arc.
Offensive charge is called against number 30, Fabio Baselli. That's his second personal foul, the team's 4th. Turns the ball over to the Jackets. Checking into the game for him is number 5, Elijah Elliott.
And that deuce by Gaines did break that 14-0 run Oak Ridge had put together. Now they need to get some more points, though. As you like to say, Mark, they stopped the bleeding, but you can't do it just once. You got to do it successively. Skying and grabbing the rebound is Tyler Davis, and Oak Ridge off to the races again. Leesburg, though, forces a turnover, and who else but Cameron James not only will get the turnover, but take a trip to the free throw line with 4:10 remaining.
Foul called against number 1, Tyler Davis on the block. That's his first personal foul, and the team's 5th. That's on the floor. It'll be Jackets ball at the sideline, but first checking into the game for the Pioneers, Darby Robertson and Lewis Jones.
Yeah, so actually it is a non-shooting foul. James was somewhat, it looked like James had started his motion somewhat, but not enough.
Double dribble, Pioneers ball.
In the end, it doesn't matter as the double dribble call. And that's the second double dribble call on Leesburg. In general, that's something you just don't see, but especially a state semifinalist. So you have to wonder how much Oak Ridge has gotten inside the Yellowjackets' head. And that
Jalen Reese for 3.
So a 20-2 run now by Oak Ridge. Leesburg trying desperately to cut back into that lead and stop the bleeding.
Checking into the game for Leesburg, number 11, Kanye Gaines. And for the Pioneers, Andy Boger.
Neil Fisher, Mark Barchi with the call on this 23rd of 24 games, making up the 2021 Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge, the most games ever, and also the most teams competing, 46. This also means, Mark, this is the first time that every single member of the Metro Conference has participated in this event.
Now, that was almost another unforced mental error. As, again, you pass the ball to where your receiver is going to be, not to where they are. The problem is your receiver needs to move there. Now Carter throws the ball out of bounds.
Yeah.
Pioneers ball, so it'll be a turnover anyway.
Leesburg avoided the mistake the first time, but not the second time. And again, Mark, I keep bringing it up. I brought it up a handful of times now, but I have to seriously wonder that if Leesburg's mistakes are as much mental playing against this high-powered transition Oak Ridge squad as it is just Oak Ridge doing the damage.
Yeah, well, I mean,
damage.
this almost feels a lot like the last game we saw against Apopka, except it's happening about a quarter sooner as we get Tyler Johnson from Darby Robertson.
Yeah, again, I don't want to say intimidation per se, but just the constant thought that you're hearing footsteps from Oak Ridge in the hands, getting in the way, how much of a role that's in the back of Leesburg's head. Again, extremely talented but young team.
We got a player down at the other end of the court, so look for a whistle as soon as the ball goes in, and it does. Tyler Johnson gets the basket. We'll pause for an injury timeout. And that is Andy Boger, who is awfully shaken up down there.
Yeah, he's made a couple of attempts just to get to his knees and collapse both times. So let's hope for the best. And now Bogert is on his side, 2:43 remaining, 33-12 lead for Oak Ridge. They have put together a 24-2 run. But right now the concern is for Andy Bogert, the 5'9" junior guard. And I didn't see exactly what happened, Mark. Obviously, he's going to need several minutes before he's capable of getting up.
Yeah, this is one of those situations. He looks dazed.
Yeah. Now you can see that when he first had the trouble getting up, you couldn't tell if it was something to do with the knee and he just didn't have the strength to balance himself, or if it was related to some type of taking a shot in the head. Yeah, and now it's definitely concussion. You can see that the trainer are asking how many fingers do you see.
Yeah, so concussion protocol is going to come into play here. He stood up the first time with similar symptoms to vertigo. As he quickly went back down again. So.
Yeah, he actually tried twice. I was actually looking at I was actually watching him while the play was going on over at the other end of the court. So, this is one of those deals in the last 10 to 15 years. Concussions are taken much more seriously. It's not just shake it off, throw some dirt on it. It's taken to the point where you do not get that player off the court until he can, fully recognize and he's fully cognizant of what's going on and where he is.
That's number 10, Andy Boger, shaken up on the play.
And, I can tell you, Mark, it was a long time ago, 30-plus years, but I never suffered a concussion while playing basketball, but I did suffer a couple while playing hockey. And, this is some very scary stuff. Number one, again, the seriousness as far as how taken is much, much more different than it was. But again, this is something that can have some long-term effects, can last for several days, maybe even several weeks.
And a shout-out to our training team, helping Boger off the court.
And when you do take a shot to the head, remember, your head is encased, it's inside the skull. So you're doing a lot of damage. It's not like the rest of the body where there's air to get to it. It's enclosed, and that can cause some damage in itself.
And we also had some blood on the floor, as it looks like maybe he got conked in the nose as well and had a nosebleed in addition to the concussion. So bloodborne pathogen protocol also being put into play here. We have our training staff that is trained on how to handle that and render the court safe to return to play. It just takes a few extra seconds here. And to your point, Neil, both of these topics, bloodborne pathogen awareness and concussion protocol awareness, are fields that have come quite a long way in the 30 years since you and I were out there.
Yes, young men playing for our high school teams. Yeah, and again, not just the seriousness, but the actual research being done. And again, as I mentioned, something that was not taken into account 30 years ago is that when you do get hit in the head, and in particular if you do suffer a concussion, you're dealing with an enclosed area of the body. It's below the skull. So there's no opportunity for the blood to continue to flow as fluidically as it would normally. You do need to get air into the area that's bruised. And again, remember, a concussion is basically a bruising inside the head.
So I would not expect Boger to return for the rest of this game. Meanwhile, coming in for him is Jalen Reese. Will take his place on the roster for the time being. We got 2:43 to go here in the second quarter. You hear the crowd applauding the training team there. That's one of those things. The training team hopes that they get to sit there and be bored for 14 hours, and unfortunately in this game, they ended up taking center stage for a few minutes, and now we're back underway.
In the lead, 33-12 by Oak Ridge. They are on a 24-2 run. Leesburg, a state semifinalist, as is Oak Ridge. However, Leesburg is a talented but very young team, has only 2 starters return.
Foul called against Oak Ridge, number 5, Elijah Elliott. It's his first personal foul, the team's 6th.
On the other hand, Oak Ridge with 5 returning players. And again, this is the first game for both these teams. First week that regular season action is taking place according to FHSAA rules. So that plays a role too. First time you're going against an opponent. The drive and no dice, air ball, and now a second, third, and fourth attempt. The ball finally goes in. Williams going bank, and that will cut the run to 29-4. And Williams trying to physically carry his team and cut that lead. Oak Ridge getting back on defense, though, as we drop under 2 minutes before the half. The spin by Gaines. He does not draw the foul. And Oak Ridge will come back the other way and set up shop. James, who's done tremendous damage. I don't believe he's come out for a rest yet. A minute and a half before halftime. The 23rd of 24 games making up the 2021 Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. To the left corner, wide open, squaring up. Does not drop this time, but the Windex work by Jones. And it's the pass that he has trouble with.
Yeah, I'm going to be kind there. I'm not going to give him credit for a rebound and a turnover. I'm just going to say it went out of bounds off of him. Checking into the game for Oak Ridge, number 1, Tyler Davis.
So Leesburg, 4 consecutive points, and an opportunity to continue to cut into that 19-point lead. Ball taken to the top by Williams, handed it off there by Jefferson, who tries to shake and bake. No dice, though. And down into the left corner, a pair of twos going at it, James and Reese. And James gets the shot off, but Reese wins the battle. An air ball coming back the other way. The dish in the lane, and the finger roll from
Lewis Jones. Timeout. Jackets. 30-second timeout requested by Leesburg.
So the Yellowjackets do somewhat stop the bleeding, scoring 4 of the last 6 points and slowing down Oak Ridge's pace in transition, but they still have a long way to go, trailing 35-14, 41 seconds before halftime.
Hoop Culture is the premier one-stop online store for copping unique basketball accessories, the forerunner of independent street and lifestyle apparel, setting trends with each and every new arrival. Visit hoopculture.com and enter promo code METRO for 10% off your order.
We return to action at Joe A. Sterling Gymnasium on the campus of Apopka High School, and we have seen a tremendous Metro versus Florida challenge. This game was supposed to be a lot better. looking at the paper, but Oak Ridge has certainly shown his experience over the inexperienced Yellowjackets. Both these teams state semifinalists. 35-14 lead for Oak Ridge, 31 seconds before halftime.
Foul is called against number 1, Jermaine Williams, his first personal foul, the team's third. That was on the floor. It'll be Pioneers' ball at the opposing baseline.
And just when you think Leesburg might be able to do a couple of possessions, strong possessions, Oak Ridge answers. And there's an example as the foul will be drawn by Davis.
Foul called against number 20, that's Amari Davis on the offensive charge. That'll be his first, the team's 7th. Of course, we don't shoot bonus for offensive fouls, but it is a turnover.
And Gaines, a 6'4" sophomore forward, will inbound the ball. Leesburg trying to get it up quickly. And once again, that Oak Ridge defense maybe perhaps didn't directly turn a turnover, but the result, a couple passes later, was out of bounds, stepping out of bounds. And so a timeout taken with 23 seconds remaining.
30-second timeout requested by the Pioneers.
Steve Reese, the 5th-year coach, wants to discuss strategy and make sure they don't leave the door open for the Leesburg Yellowjackets. Lead 35-14. Oak Ridge has led for most of the since about 2 minutes remaining in the first quarter.
And Neil, you were just talking about the turnovers. Right now, 10 turnovers in the books for Oak Ridge, 16 in the books for the Jackets. And that has been a key differentiator.
Yeah, that's a 12-point differential. Still wouldn't give the lead to Leesburg, but they would be under 10. Also second chance rebounds, as you like to say, Mark. Air ball, one last opportunity for Leesburg. Maybe they can start to get on the roll, find their transition legs.
Cameron James is fouled on the attempt. He'll go to the line and shoot 2. The foul is called against number 2, Jalen Reese, his second personal foul, and the team's 8th.
So James got off to a quick start, a hot start, scoring 4 points, a couple of buckets. I believe on the first 4 Leesburg possessions. He still has 4 points, though, with 5 seconds remaining before halftime, and had an opportunity to give some momentum to his Leesburg team. 1 of 2, the shot, and no dice, goes wide. Shot taken by Reese, and we go into halftime. A phenomenal effort on the transition, all of which caused by nasty defense creating turnovers, and they will take a 20-point lead into halftime.
That takes us to the end of the second quarter. 35-15 is your score at intermission here in game 23 of the 11th Annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. Elevate Orlando is a civic nonprofit focused on helping students grow in strength of character and application of essential life skills. Elevate's essential skills are taught in the classroom, modeled through mentoring, and incorporated into all we do so students can apply them to their lives. Through a partnership with OCPS, Elevate's curriculum is offered as an accredited elective course, and as private employees of Elevate Orlando, teacher mentors can spend more than 50% of their time outside the school mentoring students. Excel Speed provides training for all sports, high school, Pop Warner, youth sports, football, baseball, track, and more for both boys and girls. Some of the benefits of Excel Speed fitness and training include NFL and All-American college trainers. The program is fully customizable and mobile. They can even come to you. President Lowood brings his experience as a former high school and college athlete to develop young players into successful athletes and scholars. Florida Hoops is the most respected name in boys high school basketball recruiting here in the Sunshine State. Their staff of writers and contributors provide coverage ranging from college commitments to player and team rankings to stories on prospects and programs from all around the state. And Baptiste Orthodontics and Dentistry for Kids is a proud sponsor of the 11th Annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. With 3 convenient offices in Apopka, Orlando, and Windermere, it's never been easier to have a healthy new smile. Braces and aligners for all ages, plus dentistry for kids exclusively in Apopka. Once again, a 20-point ball game. The Oak Ridge Pioneers leading the Leesburg Yellowjackets 35-15 at halftime here in the penultimate game of the 11th Annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. For those of you listening online, we're going to take a quick break, about 6 more minutes, and we'll be back for the second half here at Joe Sterling Gymnasium. Welcome back to Joe Sterling Gymnasium. The Jackets have the opening possession of the third quarter. And we are underway here at Apopka High School with the second half of our penultimate game.
Yeah, and no doubt about it, Oak Ridge has commanded this game from about midway through that fourth quarter. They now have a 35-15 lead.
Block is called against Pioneers, number 4. Lewis Jones is first, the team's first. At the line will be number 4 of the Jackets, Brian Jefferson.
The leading scorer is Tyler Johnson from Oak Ridge. He dropped 12 points in that first half. But even more impressive, Mark, is Oak Ridge's field goal percentage. 52% from the field, 61% from inside the tray from two-point range, 11 of 18. Leesburg, the very talented but young team, and they open up the third quarter best possible way.
Jones to Elliott for 3.
So that's certainly what you need if you're Leesburg.
Well, it's not what they need, that like a hole in the head is getting a 3 scored against them. Deflected out of bounds by Jones. Oh, and better than that, they're even going to say that that's a turnover.
So down on the left wing to Basili. And again, please pardon me. I actually myself got confused. And that is because Leesburg is actually wearing the home white jerseys. Oak Ridge is wearing the visiting jerseys. Normally it's the other way. So again, got confused. Please excuse me. It's been a long 3 days. But more than anything else, just the switch in the uniforms as we begin the second half.
Checking into the game for Oak Ridge, number 1, Tyler Davis.
So talked about Oak Ridge shooting 61% inside from two-point range. On the other side, Leesburg, once again, a very talented, as always, team, but very young. They shot 26% from the field overall.
To the paint. Cameron James adds 2 for the Jackets. And the referees let him play there. And now we're going to get a foul at the other end. Jackets foul. Called against number 15, Charles Hill on the arm. That's his first personal foul, the team's first of this half.
So Leesburg trying to cut into that lead. And there's one of the few times they come down with the offensive rebound. And that pays dividends.
Jalen Reese for 3. Nothing there at the other end, and they're going to say it stays with the Jackets. Checking into the game for Oak Ridge, number 5, Elijah Elliott. Nice inbound, but it's all for naught. Foul is called against number 30, Fabio Basili. That's his third personal foul. The team's second of this half. Checking into the game for him is Tyler Johnson. So that's one that Leesburg would probably be just as happy if they didn't call that, because that was going to be a surefire basket. Trapped in the corner. Elliott gets rid of it. Go back to Elliott. This time he's open. Can't get the 3 to fall, but their offensive rebound goes to Davis, and he finds his man. Davis to Reese for 3.
And Oak Ridge has really come out here and put their foot on the throat of Leesburg. Again, the score was 11-10. Leesburg was actually in the lead. Oak Ridge rambled off 14 consecutive points, and it has been all Oak Ridge since the beginning of that run. Leesburg looking like a team that just does not know what hit them. 44-17, 5:24 remaining in the third quarter.
30-second timeout requested by the Jackets. Apopka Commissioner Kyle Becker is proud to support the 11th Annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge and sends his best wishes to all the participating teams. If you have a goal to buy or sell your home, put Latrice Singleton Bielo's passion to work for you with Keller Williams Realty. Latrice Singleton Bielo, your praying agent. And the 11th Annual Metro versus Florida Challenge is proudly supported by Williams Construction and Development, dedicated professionals, superior craftsmanship, and better building materials. We're back to live action here at Joe Sterling Gymnasium, where we've got 5:20 and change remaining in the third quarter. And the Jackets still grasping for answers. They went toe-to-toe with the Pioneers for about the first 3 or 4 minutes and then really just kind of fell apart. James with an air ball there is recovered by Tyler Davis. And the Pioneers, meanwhile, have been relentless. Although Johnson bobbles the ball here in the paint, it gets picked up by Jefferson, taken to the other end, takes it himself. That's not there. Beautiful rebounding work, though, by Johnson, getting it to his teammate Jones. And we're going to get a foul at the other end.
Yeah, and really the difference has been the experience. Oak Ridge, a much more experienced team than Yellowjackets, Leesburg. Both these teams were state's finalists last year.
Foul called against Jackets number 2, Cameron James, his second personal foul, the team's second. So now we have Oak Ridge at the free throw line. That is Elijah Elliott making the first of 2.
However, the difference is the amount of players returning. Only 2 starters returning for Leesburg, while Oak Ridge can rely on a very deep bench of returners. A number of their starters did see significant time last year, although they were not starters. And the lead is now up to 29, 46-17.
Anthony Kaiser checks into the game for Leesburg.
So this is the Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. And as Cameron James tries to slash and dash and work his way through that lane, he will not get the call. The refs say he charged.
Charge is called against number 2, Cameron James. That's his third personal foul, the team's third. Charge taken by Lewis Jones.
Each public high school located in Orange County, which is mostly city of Orlando, is a member of the Metro Conference. In each game, one of those members faces off against a non-member, a.k.a. the Florida Contingency. At the end of the 3 days and 24 games, we add up which group scores more victory. And, of course, the concept is Scott Williams. He was at Wekiva High School when he first initiated this event. Now he's at Apopka.
Foul is called against number 3, Tyler Johnson.
And the concept is based on the ACC versus Big Ten and Big 12 versus SEC challenges at the college level. 4:24 remaining in the third quarter.
Of course, it is a foregone conclusion at this point that the Florida Contingency is going to win, but since everybody's already here, we figured we'd go ahead and play the last 3 games anyway.
So, a pretty...
Foul called against number 4, Lewis Jones. That's a second personal foul, the team's fourth. Checking into the game for Leesburg, number 11, Kanye Gaines.
About 200 fans in attendance. One more game after this one. We will wrap up this 11th edition of the Metro versus Florida Challenge. as the ball bounces around in a foul. Evans versus Windermere Prep. Windermere Prep ranked number 7 for Class 3A.
Foul called against number 2, Cameron James. That's his 4th personal foul, the team's 4th.
And we go back the other way. Score the deuce.
Tyler
off the board.
Johnson from Elijah Elliott.
48-17. The block for Leesburg. One of the few plays, few possessions that the Leesburg faithful has had something to cheer about. And so the battle rages on. Oak Ridge holding that big lead. Leesburg trying to find some footing, so to speak. Still unable to do so with any consistency. As 3:32 now remains. And so Leesburg showing some defensive fortitude, at least enforcing that ball out of bounds and making Oak Ridge reset. And they will do that for a second consecutive time. Down low.
Wide open.
Man, off the board, Elliott.
Elijah Elliott from Tyler Johnson.
And back again. Another turnover.
Foul called against number 5, Andre Carter. That's his 2nd personal foul.
And Mark, we are at the threshold of a running clock, something I guess we would never thought we'd see with Leesburg. Of course, as we mentioned, a 3-time state champion.
Well, we said that about Bartow yesterday.
Yes. And I was going to say, I don't think we would never see it against either of those teams individually, let alone both combined. And the running clock goes into effect when the lead becomes 35 points in the second half. The second free throw, score it. A sweet stroke. No problems from Elliott. And we are now in a running clock. A 35-point lead in the second half. The next game and the last game will pit Evans representing the Metro Conference against Windermere Prep.
Kanye Gaines picks up 2 for Leesburg.
Representing the Florida contingency. And the other thing about that running clock is even if the team trailing does get the lead to less than 35, the clock does continue to run. Up the gut, trying to split the defense was Gaines. And Oak Ridge brings it up the other way. No foul, despite the contact. Along the right side, along the right wing. Stop, pop, no drop. Bangs off the left side of the rim. And Oak Ridge will go back to work. Approaching 2 minutes remaining in the third quarter. But again, the running clock is in effect. Elliott unable to drop the deuce. Rebound. Couple of offensive opportunities, and Leesburg gives the ball back to Oak Ridge, unable to corral it. Out to the left wing.
3 for Jalen Reese from Elijah Elliott. Yeah, you got to call that. Traveling. Pioneers ball, checking into the game for Leesburg, number 4, Brian Jefferson.
So a minute and a half before the end of the third quarter. And the slash and dash, the layup for Elliott.
Elijah Elliott adds 2. And, I mean, he and Reese are both in double figures and have been pulling their weight and more for the Pioneer effort.
Elliott.
Foul called against number 11, Kanye Gaines.
Elliott exerting his presence over the last 2 or 3 possessions.
It's his first personal foul, the team's 6th. Under a minute to go here in the third. That'll light up bonus for Oak Ridge.
So now Oak Ridge is going to take the ball out and set up the play. They're not looking for a transition or to force the issue. One of the few times in this game. Now they go down low. Ball comes loose. Out of bounds. And will remain with Oak Ridge. 30 seconds remaining. Clock is running. 35-plus point lead. That establishes the running clock. So Oak Ridge, we'll see what they do here with that running clock. And they've dominated this game since about 4 minutes in. Off the back heel. And Oak Ridge pulling Windex work out to the left wing. Too much heat. 3 seconds remaining. Leesburg trying to get one last shot off. And Jefferson just can't cover the distance. And Oak Ridge continues to extend their lead, shooting over 60% from two-point range, 57-19 as we enter the fourth quarter.
That takes us to the end of the third period, 57-19 the score. Going into the final 8 minutes here in the second to last contest of the 11th Annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. We'd like to thank our friends at Varsity Sports Network for their partnership in presenting our live streams of the 11th Annual Metro versus Florida Challenge. All your favorite sports all year long, all in one place. Visit varsitysportsnetwork.org for live 24/7 coverage of high school sports around the state, including all 24 games of the Metro versus Florida Challenge. We do have one more coming up for you. It promises to be a good one. Up next to finish off this edition of the MVFC, it's Evans versus Windermere Prep. That game scheduled to start at 9 p.m. Pioneers have the opening possession of the fourth quarter.
And the Pioneers also have a 57-19 lead, and they go back to work. A 14-0 run, which started about 4 minutes into the game, put them ahead, and they have not looked back since then. We are in a running clock. 35-point lead or more during the second half. So Leesburg brings that ball up. Leesburg, a very talented team, but extremely young. Few returners coming back. And we have really seen that difference, Mark. Oak Ridge was definitely more experienced at the varsity level. And one of the few mistakes, a handful of mistakes committed by Oak Ridge. 18 points for Jalen Reese, 13 points for Elijah Elliott, the Oak Ridge leading scorers, actually the game leading scorers, and they're going to go at it again. This is Reese, short, doing the Windex work is Robertson. Among the trees, he gets it out at the top of the key and drain the rain for
Amari
Davis.
4-3 from Lewis Jones.
And so that lead continues to grow, 60-19 now. And Robertson showing he's got the chops under the board.
Amari Davis from Fabio Basili.
6.5 minutes remaining.
Lowering the shoulder, it's a no call. Blocked by Jamarian Williams.
Oak Ridge will inbound the ball as the clock continues to tick. And another mistake. Again, only a handful of mistakes by Oak Ridge. They've shot 60% from two-point range, 52% at halftime overall.
James gets a shot blocked out of bounds by Davey Robertson.
And the lead now 62-19. Oak Ridge with that lead, a 14-0 run, starting about 4 minutes into the game. Put them ahead. They have not looked back since then.
Tray does not fall for James, and the rebound to Davis.
Under 5 minutes. And scramble, have to say this for Leesburg, they have not given up though, still fighting hard.
Held ball, possession Jackets. Checking into the game for Oak Ridge, number 15, Alex Patterson.
So Leesburg inbounds the ball as we approach 4 minutes remaining. And they're going to try to make something. It's been a long night for Leesburg. Not only has Oak Ridge shot over 60% from two-point range, 52% overall at halftime, but Leesburg is yet to crack the 30% mark themselves.
Reynardo Kajuzma into the game for Oak Ridge. And for Leesburg, they'll send in Wilton Jean-Pierre. So both teams putting some new faces into the roster. We have not seen yet today. At this point, the game results as a foregone conclusion.
Yes, and this will cut the lead by the Florida contingency to 13-10. And now the clock does stop for, not sure exactly what the ref was discussing with Coach Reese. The end result, though, is Baselli waved to the bench. And so we get back to action. 3:31 remaining. Oak Ridge has dominated this game since 4 minutes into this game. A 14-0 run put him into the lead for good. And this is the 11th annual Metro versus Florida Challenge. Forever now, Earl Graham's name, the coach, will be added. And of course, at the end of this game, Mark, you will present the Metro, the Earl Graham, I guess we're calling it the Memorial Award.
Yes, we'll be presenting the MVP in honor and in memory of Earl Graham, and we'll take a look at the stats as we get close here, but obviously it's going to go to the Pioneers. Let's see, as I'm scanning up and down my roster, I see 3 good candidates who are in double figures for Oak Ridge.
And before we get there, just want, for those of you who are not familiar with Coach Graham or who he was, as we go bank.
Alex Patterson adds 2 on the layup.
Coach Graham coached for over 50 years. His last assignment was, of course, here, the right-hand man of Coach Williams. He was his right-hand man when Coach Williams was at Wekiva, and Graham was just one of those guys who was an excellent coach, didn't take a lot of attention, never saw him really on the bench. He sat behind the bench, but no team was a consistent winner without Coach Graham. He was the kind of coach who would come in at 5:36 in the morning and work with the player when he needed it before class. But even more importantly, he was a terrific man off the court, and believed that as a coach he was a mentor and worked relentlessly with those kids, setting an example of how to build a successful life, working with them to develop those traits which allow for a successful life. And as we come to the end of this game, and really my run as a voice.
3 for Alex Patterson.
Just want to say what I'll always remember about Coach Graham is that he always remembered what we talked about last. Didn't matter if it had been 6 months or 6 hours since the last time we had talked.
Evan James adds 2 for the Jackets.
And so those are my memories of Coach Graham, and that's why he will forever have his name as a part of this event. And we will, from now on, at the end of every game, give out the Earl Graham MVP award in his memory, and also to honor what he left behind as a tribute. 30 seconds remaining. Leesburg with possession. This has not been much of a game since 4 minutes in. No question, a 14-0 run by Oak Ridge, facilitated by turnovers. And when you're creating transition opportunities off of turnovers, you shoot the ball well. Oak Ridge shooting over 60% from two-point range and over 50% overall. The last 3 seconds tick off the clock, and we are now 23 games into the book, 67-23, your final score.
That takes us to the end of the ball game here in Game 23 of the 11th Annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. And at the end of each game, we present one top-performing player with the Earl Graham MVP Award in honor and in memory of Coach Graham's legacy and his contribution of nearly 50 years to Central Florida coaching. And in this game, while he was not the leading scorer, he was second and also had a lot of stats on both sides of the ball with 14 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 4 steals, and a blocked shot. Your Earl Graham MVP for Game 23 is number 3, Tyler Johnson. Congratulations, Tyler. We got one more coming your way, and it is scheduled for 9 o'clock. Coming up next, we finish up the 11th installment of the Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge as the Evans Trojans take on the Windermere Prep Lakers to take us home for Saturday night.
And so, as we get ready for that game, Mark, I just want to say goodbye to all of you who've been listening. I'm going to duck out now. It's been a long 3 days, but an incredibly fulfilling and satisfying 3 days. You can probably hear the fatigue in my voice, but it has been an extreme